What up, world? What up, world? What up, world? Your boy is back, the one and only nonprofit sector connector. Your boy Tommy D coming at you 2 flights up from where I get my coffee. That's right, the kitchen. 2 flights up into my attic, just below the roof of the house. That's where I keep the attic. I don't know where you keep your attic, but they keep me in the attic, and I keep the attic at the top of the house. The show's Philanthropy and Focus. Your boy's the nonprofit sector connector. Life, as in networking, as in other things, is a contact sport. What am I talking about? Life is a contact sport. You got to get out there. You got to make the connections. How do you become a nonprofit sector connector? Well, you get out there, you meet people, you shake it up. You go to the Long Island Imagine Awards in a seersucker suit, and people want to talk to you. Not because of the suit, but maybe they want to talk to you because they're like, wow, why is that circle forming around that guy? He might be an important guy to know. I'd want to connect with him. So I do these things intentionally. Pink linen, seersucker. I'm looking for a salmon or a melon colored linen suit for y'all. So if you have it, if not, I don't want to buy yours. Like, keep yours, but if you know where you got yours from, hook me up because I definitely need to go that way. I'm also thinking not lime green, but like that green color around Easter time, like pastel green. It is spring has sprung, baby. Spring has sprung. So other than spring being important right now, I bring up the Long Island Imagine Awards because it's how I met my friend Katie Swanson. Katie, good morning. What's up?
Good morning.
Are you fired? Even if you're not fired up, man, you're gonna be fired up soon. What is going on?
I am fired up about what Bethany House is doing and what
Yep.
I've done and being on your show. As I
That's it.
shared with you earlier, I am new to being interviewed. So,
Well,
you
listen to
know,
this. I've been told that I make the conversation easy. It's fun. The time flies by, so we'll see if we can do that again. If I could repeat. I want to make a couple comments before we get into our conversation around your very important organization and your very important background. But it is, I want to say, aside from it being spring, which I got to tell you, aside from seasonal allergies, which is beating the heck out of one of my sons, I got a little bit of problems this year, but my son he's getting smoked with the seasonal allergies. But aside from the allergies, my favorite time of year is right now. And I started to like autumn. And if I get a shot, I'll tell you why I didn't like autumn growing up, and I'll tell you that later. But it is Mental Health Awareness Month. Last night, I was out at a client visiting with them. They had a garden party to celebrate Mental Health Awareness Month. It's called Venture House, which is a clubhouse model for people living with severe mental health issues. But it's Clubhouse. It's a community, man. It's a community of folks who work for Venture House. It's a community of folks who come to Venture House each day to the Clubhouse, and they work together. They eat together. They have formed community together. There's vocational. There's educational. It's all there. And I was so excited to be able to pop in and visit my friend Juliet Douglas, the executive director, and visit with some of the folks there. You know what the thing about it is? It is community. I've said that 6 times probably already, but that's what it's about, man. That's what life is about. That's what this is all about. I had one gentleman when I was walking out of the event last night. He goes, that was so nice of you to go around and like chat with everybody. And I go, man, that's what we're here to do. Like, that's the whole thing. Like, and I tell you, selfishly, I do what I do because I get to feel good about it, man. And I feel good when I meet people and I talk about what's new with them. And there's a gentleman named Patrick who I met last night who runs the vocational program down there at Venture House. And he and I are going to jump on a Zoom call because one of the things that organization needs is to continue to grow their pipeline of job opportunities for the individuals that the organization serves. Gang, it's about love. It's about compassion. We're all on this spectrum, right? We're on the spectrum of mental health, right? I tell you this, day in and day out, I meet with people who have different challenges in their life. I didn't know I was going to tell you this one, but I will tell you this. My big quote, Robin Williams, everyone you know is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Be kind always. Remember that if you approach the world that way, man, you don't know what someone's lot in life is, man. You don't know what they're going through. And if you're anything like me, give a hug when you can, man, because hugs are fun. Hugs are fun. I think that's from Barney or something like that, or Yo Gabba Gabba. Katie, I don't know if you know that show Yo Gabba Gabba. That's actually, yeah,
heard of it.
yeah. Well, now with there's a small person in your life right now, so I will talk to you later on about Yo Gabba Gabba. We'll have to talk.
Okay.
We'll talk about that.
No,
Uh,
but that's wonderful that you went to that last night.
it was
Mental
so
health
special.
is the biggest challenge in
Well, I think it's going to be part
our
of our
country.
it's going to be part of our conversation today. And I'd ask you,
Absolutely.
I mean, obviously there's this stigma around mental health and the conversation around mental health, but I really believe, I've been involved. The second ever show I did here, Philanthropy and Focus, with Dr. Larry Grubler from TSINY, Transitional Services for New York.
Mhm.
And he said, you know, Tommy, we all just need support at different times. And I think that's what I'm trying to say is like, if
That's
we just,
exactly it.
right, if we break it down to that, where,
And
go ahead,
yeah,
sorry.
and the client, the homeless clients that we serve, or just homeless clients in general, they don't have that support, And what my thing is, I've always just wanted to give them what I have, right? What I have that helped me be successful. You don't need you don't need everything that you want, but you need certain fundamental things, and having support, someone you could call to say, like, what should I wear to a job interview? Or my kid did this. How do I deal with it properly, or whatever? It's just, we all have it. We have natural supports, friends, families, neighbors, bosses, but a lot of homeless people are very isolated, and
Yeah.
that's part of the problem. That's
Yeah, and I
piece of
think for lack of a better way of saying it, I think like there's these comorbidities, at least in my experience when I meet people, where substance abuse is maybe like comorbidity is the wrong word. Maybe it's like Venn diagram where substance abuse, mental health, homelessness,
There's a myriad of things going
these
on.
things go on and they
Yeah,
and they rub up against each other. But I think not to be silly about it, but isn't that the human experience? We have all these things, we have challenges. However, some don't get the look. There's been times,
right.
candidly, in my life, if I didn't have the right people around me, I made some dumb mistakes at different points in my life, and
Right.
those could have, or even the thing that the one that like blows my mind is. And we're going to talk about all this stuff as best we can, but the one that blows my mind is a family is getting by, quote unquote, getting by, right? And then all of a sudden, someone gets sick. One of the breadwinners, one of the earners, the mom or the dad gets
Mhm.
sick. Now, the other person maybe becomes a caregiver, and all of a sudden, they can't make the rent. They can't make the bills. They can't. And now they're on the street. And like, nobody did anything wrong. Like, it wasn't even a bad decision or anything like that. It was just kind of the
Yes.
life. But maybe if they have a safety net and someone can grab them, but if they don't, then they're kind of
Right.
out. So we're going to get
Mhm.
into a
I
lot of it.
don't, yeah.
Tell me.
I
Yeah,
mean,
go ahead.
maybe this comes out later, but I don't see, that's not the majority of our homeless population.
Yeah. I
I mean,
want
I
to know
can
all
only
that. Tell me.
speak about Nassau County, but I imagine Nassau County is an example of the rest of the country.
Hmm. Here's what I want to do. You said that you want to help other people and you want people to have what you have. And that we kind of got to that from the
Or
start.
what a lot of us have,
Yeah. I,
nothing,
I
nothing
want to know,
crazy, but
but I want to know where that all, so I want to know Katie Swanson. I
okay.
want, I want to know that story. I want to know. So like, I got to tell you, I was not somebody who was necessarily like knocking people over to get to nonprofit organizations in my young days. I wasn't a bad guy, but it wasn't relevant to me. I find a
Right.
lot of my guests have some kind of, you know, Genesis
Oh,
story.
mhm.
Something pulled them. I mean, in your case,
Yes.
what was there something like that? And if so,
I
what was
mean, it's not monumental, but I think that I've always been able to see things kind of clearly since a young age, and kind of see down the road 100 yards, which can be a blessing and a curse, because when you tell people this is going to happen next year if you keep going this way, and they get annoyed, and then when it happens, they don't really remember you said it or whatever. But I think that I wanted to be a child psychologist when I was younger, because I wanted to give kids a voice, as some kids really do see what's going on and know what's going on and know what needs to happen. And I went to Syracuse University and I started my psychology degree. And I realized that it wasn't exactly what I wanted. I took an intro to social work class. I don't know if I'm so glad that I went down this career path, but I almost was like tricked. I had the most amazing professor for intro to social work. He was the dean of the school, and he had guest speakers come in constantly. This one woman came in and said, Syracuse, is a very impoverished city, and they used to have factories that are gone, so there's not a lot of jobs. And this woman came in, she said that she was an older woman and people started selling drugs in her neighborhood, but she was part of that neighborhood. So she took her lawn chair and she would sit with the drug dealers, because she's like, no one's going to buy drugs from you if an old lady's sitting with you. And finally, they left. And that's how she handled that. And I was just amazed by her. And I wanted to become part of what
So
she
she
was
was
doing.
she was the deterrent. She's like, I will keep the drug purchasers off the block because they're not gonna come here
Yeah.
because I'm sitting
Well,
there.
I think she was a fixture in the community. People
Yeah.
knew her, they knew her kids. Like she wasn't just some random lady sitting
No,
with them.
so
She
it
was
would
a
have been
woman they
disrespectful.
respected.
Right. So it's
And she just
disrespect.
said, I'm just going to sit here and hang out with you and let's see if people buy drugs. And
Yeah.
I mean, this was in the 90s. They didn't.
Yeah.
So I started volunteering for her and seeing how, not everybody gets everything they need growing up. And, you know, when you're growing up, you're learning how to be an adult. You're learning how to deal with challenges. You're learning in school. You're doing all that. And did I have a perfect childhood? No, but it was safe in my house. We had notebooks and coats and, you know, a tutor if we needed it. And we always had dinner, and when we went to bed, it was safe. Nobody bothered us. And I bring that up because most of the majority of the homeless clients I meet, they've been through trauma, you know. And how do you study for your history test when you're being sexually abused at night, when there's no food in your house, when, you know, there's no parents home, you're watching your younger siblings? Do I go to school, or do I and leave my 3-year-old brother home alone, or do I stay home? And, you know, so just having those fundamental things, nothing crazy, you know, nothing outlandish, but just the tools you need to learn how to become an adult and become resilient and learn, you know, make connections and all
So
of that.
how
So
did you get tricked? What was the trick though? I'm going back to
I don't know. When I say trick, that's a bad word. And I really am appreciative of the path I went down. And it's been a very fulfilling career,
yeah,
challenging,
yeah.
stressful, frustrating, but really rewarding. I mean, working with people and helping them and being a genuine support for them is the most rewarding thing.
I love that. I think, you know, I try, so, you know, in my world, so my wife and I are raising our 4 kids, and we're doing the best we can, man, like everybody, you know. No, I'm not asking for pity or anything. We're
And everybody, I have to point,
doing the
everybody's
best we
doing the
can,
best they can,
doing the best we can.
whether they're smoking crack or hearing voices, you know, they're doing the best they can
Doing
based
it
on what they have.
faithfully, 100%. You know, there's a comedian, a guy named Tom Papa, and I like him. I think he's funny. And his most recent special, it could be 3 years ago, but it's on Netflix, and it's called "You're Doing Great. You're doing great." And he was just, because it was so cool. He's just like, "Hey, you're doing great. You know, you got a little heavy. You're losing your hair. You're doing great." Like, and I would laugh about. So you're doing great, gang. Give yourself a hug, man. It's important to have that self-love and realize. And I'm talking to me just as much as I'm talking to everybody else, because all the cool stuff I do in the world, sometimes I don't realize like that it is a big deal and it is important. And I have to remind myself and look at the Tommy D character and go, dude, you're doing great, man. It's a big deal. I want to get to this point of understanding. So you come out of Syracuse, and I want
So
to
I
know.
come in at Syracuse. I became an independent living specialist at 22, living at home. My mom was making my lunch. I'm like, I can't teach these kids how to be independent. I'm not independent. So a friend of mine was working for Nassau County Housing, and I just was telling her how stressful my job was and how I didn't feel I was ready for it. And she said, "We're hiring." And I happened to have my resume on my back seat of my car, which was very random. I handed
Yeah.
it to her, and I started working for Nassau County Housing in 2003. And it's really great because I worked in a lot of the systems in housing. I was a Section 8 worker. They have this section. There are so many fails in our system, but there's also a lot of really great programs too. So there's a family self-sufficiency, which is a Section 8 program. When your rent goes up due to earned income, they match it and put it into a secured savings for you so you could work on your goals. So I ran that program with a friend of mine. Then we got a homeless intervention program grant, and I was a caseworker in shelters because the shelters didn't used to have social workers. So
Mm.
I was working in the shelters and motels. I was at Long Beach Motor Inn and dealing with the clients and listening to them. That's one thing. People are people, and they're the expert on their stories. And a
Okay.
lot of what goes wrong in our society is you have people wherever they are. I don't want to blame anybody because there's a lot of people to blame, but you have people sitting in their office saying, "This is what somebody needs." And they don't know. They haven't talked to that person. They don't know. They're saying what they think they would want or what they would need. And they're not, the services aren't directed towards the client. So
I
just
want to pause
talking.
you. I want to pause you 1 second because we're going to go to break in a second, but I want to come back. I want to stay right where we are, talk about the caseworkers in the shelter. It's shelter? Yeah, Tommy, the shelter. The
Shelters.
shelter, Tommy D. But you know, there's that scene in Hamilton where I think it's Aaron Burr says to Hamilton, you know, talk less, listen more, right? Like,
Yes.
and like, gang, if we would, again, especially as professionals providing services, and if
Yeah.
we find out what someone's situation is, understand what their assets are, and I don't mean dollars and cents, but their
Yeah.
skill set, their skill cards, what they can
Yes.
do, right?
Everybody has strengths.
Of course.
Everybody.
And I know a lot when we spend a lot of time in the, specifically the Spirit of Huntington Arts Center, where I'm on the board. We talk about the community of individuals living with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Again, focusing on what people are skillful at, what their abilities are, and not focusing on their inefficiencies and deficiencies, I think is a very, very important part of this work that you're talking about as well. But I want to come back. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk about, you said we're not always caseworkers in the shelter. I want to know why that's even
No,
go
well,
ahead. No, tell me.
Bethany House has a social worker in every shelter. This was 15, 20 years
No, but
ago.
that's what I mean. That's part of the story, because that's evolution. So you say there weren't always in your other experience, and I want to know why that's an important thing. But you're going to tell me when we come back. We're going to leave them on the cliff. Right back. Philanthropy and Focus.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mira Brancu, host of The Hard Skills on talkradio.nyc at 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business, or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
But through the static, baby, join me in the attic, man. That's right. All right. So every single week, every Friday morning, I trek all the way up the stairs to the attic so I can do the show Philanthropy and Focus, because I believe it's important to help nonprofit organizations tell their story and amplify their messages. And that's my mission, and that's my journey, man. And I am on a mission to do 5,000 episodes of something that was just an idea, something that just came to me one day. And I said, I'm going to do this, man. And now, it's going to be like that show Wayne's World. And in that movie, when they gave Wayne and Garth a deal and they built a studio for them, somebody's going to build me a studio. In fact, I was talking to somebody on public access TV the other day, so it's ironic, but I'm going to go for a tour. But someone's going to build me a studio that looks like the attic. That's kind of the vision I've set out there. And maybe I'm going to build that studio myself, or maybe I already did, and it already is the attic. So very confusing. I'm confused now. All right. So Katie Swanson, your story is the story we're talking about as it leads us into the Bethany House story. So I shared this. I want to ask one quick thing. I noticed there's a golf outing that is actually rescheduled. Is that correct?
Yes. It was supposed to be last Wednesday. Past Wednesday, which was an awful day.
Got it. All right. Well,
Weather-wise.
I'm playing golf Monday in the New Ground golf outing. My friend Shannon Boyle, who I know you know Shannon.
I adore Shannon Boyle.
Same.
She's a mentor to me.
Same.
She's a wonderful woman.
I love Shannon. My friend Rod Gannis invited my business partner Ed Probst and I to play. So we're playing on Monday. But I know
Newgrounds is, I know, I'm sure you had her on her show. She could talk about it, but it's such a wonderful support. And I've been working with them for so many years. Talk about good agencies.
Yeah.
And we partner with them all the time.
That's what I want to talk about in your going into your background. I do have one quick question. I noticed the Rockville Links Club. It's one of the sponsors down at the bottom of you.
Yes.
Is that where you guys play the outing or no?
No. So the golf outing, I wanted to say, when you were mentioning before, it was rescheduled for July 30th. Hopefully it's our 27th annual golf outing, golf and tennis outing, which I've
Okay.
never heard of a golf and tennis outing before.
It's,
So
you know what it is? It's a good
innovative.
move. It is a good move because it pulls those non-golfers. But you know what the move is right now? The golf and the pickleball. Because now you get the people who, want to, and I love pickleball. I got to be honest with you. I'm trying to,
Yeah.
this is supposed to be the year that I work up my game. But this was also supposed to be the year I became a singer. So who knows what's going to happen? You never know with me. You never know. So I might sing while I'm playing pickleball. I feel bad for the other three guys I'm playing golf with on Monday because I might just belt out a song while we're playing. I know I can sing better than I can golf. So July 30th, where is the event?
It's at the Rockaway Hunt Club. We do a lot of stuff with the links. Our fashion show was there. But and then we have on June 12th is our garden tour in Rockville Center. And then October 10th is our psychic night. So those are the three events we have coming up. And they're all on our website.
I want to make sure we hit them at the end because I like to hit them at the end. The golf totally got my friend Logan, who's doing the production here, loves when I get off track. The ADHD kicks in, the dopamine hit.
So I'm going to bring you back. I am a clinical social worker and I will bring you back.
Take me back. Take me back.
So I know there was a cliffhanger, but should we just move on with my career? Because I think it brought me exactly to where I need to be.
Take it away.
Okay. So I worked in the field, in the grounds, and I am somebody who listens to people because they're the experts on their journey, right? And I went to college, I've done different courses, so I can filter the information they give me maybe a little differently than they would and express it. But they're the ones with the facts, the story. So anyway, so I talked to everybody, did all that. And then I was a political appointee. So I was laid off twice, I think, and brought back every time a couple of years later. But it ended up working out. So I ended up, I had a really strong leader in the beginning. She's since retired. And she was I still call her. She's a mentor. She taught me so much. And especially about just treating people like people and dignified and respectful and all of that. And anyway, so then I went to social services, Department of Social Services, and I became the deputy director of emergency housing. And this was back in 2009, where homelessness was a different kind of system. It wasn't as big of a system of a thing. There wasn't as much oversight. So I started overseeing the whole homeless population in Nassau County. And then there was a change of guard, and eventually I was laid off. So I ended up going and working at Zucker Hillside, which I think is an amazing place. And I learned so much. I worked in the psychiatric emergency room at LIJ, which is right, on the same campus. And then I worked in central intake at Zucker Hillside. So I did, insurance authorizations, the first rate. That place is so interesting. There's so much going on there. I learned stuff I could never have learned anywhere else.
My friend Anita Mancini. Do you know Anita?
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Of course I know Anita.
I love Anita Mancini. Okay. We sit on the committee for TSINY, Transitional Services for New York. Okay. Yeah. So
I learned so much. It was interesting going in there, having been a leader and not anymore. And my parents were like, you're in school again. And I learned so much. And then I ended up, the county called me and said, would you come back? So I came back, and now I had a real good understanding of mental illness. And now I had my clinical license, and I understood schizophrenia and how it's it gave me so much more tools so that I could work with the homeless and understand them and see what they needed and not have it be as scary, really get people. So then laid off again, asked to come back again. And then Bethany House was looking for an executive director. Now I oversaw Bethany House and all the other shelters. I used to have their caseworkers come in and meet with them. So I knew it really, really well. And it just felt like the right time, now overseeing all of the homeless, and the population has exploded with bail reform, and, prisons are empty, which is a wonderful thing, because that wasn't the right way to do things, but they didn't make another plan. So now you have people coming out of prison. They've been there for 30 years. They're in a hotel room. There was no, as we do things in our systems,
unfortunately, there was no process. There was no maybe everything wasn't thought out. Or how do we actually manage this next piece?
Yes. Let's do things right. So, I always say a society is judged on how you treat your most vulnerable. And look around, we're failing like nobody's business. And I think it's embarrassing and awful and sad. And we're throwing a ton of money at issues not in the right manner.
Thank
So
you.
anyway, I ended up leaving the county in August 28th. So I haven't been with Bethany even a year yet, but I know them. I mean, I remember 2005, the first time I walked into their shelter to do case management with a client. So I've been there since August 28th, and it is just a wonderful place to be. I mean, we have such a community of support, and I don't say that lightly. It is unreal the way the community supports us. Like, I had a mom, I said, she was kind of depressed. And when I said, you need to get out, she said, I don't have a stroller. So I went to Anne, who you've met in my office, and within 20 minutes, she had 2 double strollers, brand new from Rockville Center. Which one do you want? You know, we have people come in and tutor our kids. We have people come in and watch our kids while we do programs with the moms. We have people donate money. We have people, anything we need, organizing, cleaning. Like, it is just overwhelming and heartwarming, because sometimes when you're working for the government, you don't realize like there are so many good people out there doing wonderful, wonderful things. So Bethany House has 3 homeless shelters. 2 are for women with children, and 1 is for women who are single while they're homeless. Some have grown children, some have kids in foster care, but they're single in the shelter. So we have the 3 shelters. Each of the family shelters takes about 10 families, and then the singles shelter takes about 10 women. And then we really are the leader in running shelters. Our shelters, I can get into that in a minute, but we just run wonderful shelters. Then we also have a transitional house, and that I'd like to talk about because I mean, we'll get back to the homeless problem and ideas about that, but transitional housing is really not around much, right? And the government doesn't technically fund it. There are some strange funding streams or whatever. So we have, it keeps people out of homelessness, right? Which can be traumatizing, you know, and sitting down at social services, losing your job, you know, because you're missing so many days, whatnot, dragging your kids around. So we have this beautiful home in Baldwin where we rent a room or 2 rooms, depending on the family size, to a mom for a small amount. We have a case manager there who helps them with saving and just all of their different needs, you know, school, education, whatever it is. And then we also, another thing, the same social worker does aftercare, which I was talking about, having a community of support. Like this winter, we had a woman call us frantic that her lights were being shut off tonight. And so the social worker got on the phone with her. They 3-wayed PSEG in, and without even spending any money, they figured out how to keep her lights on, and they're on, and it's fine. But, you know, she didn't know, or was panicked or didn't have anyone to call to get that advice. So I think, I know that aftercare is very, very important. And sometimes when we're trying to put money into different programs as the government, we don't value that as much because it's not like an immediate need that's being met. But that's what's going to help people stay out of homelessness, you know, that's the whole point. So that's what Beth, and we have a small apartment building as well that we are renting to Section 8 clients, because even people with Section 8 vouchers are losing the vouchers. They're you know, they're competitive amounts of rent and whatnot, but landlords are afraid, or they've been through bad experiences and they don't want to take that on. So it's become very hard for people to find permanent housing. So those are.
So so we're gonna have to go to break in a sec, but I want to understand. You do this for me, please. Define for not just me, for everybody, the transitional housing, what that looks like versus, you know, I have secure housing, I'm in a shelter. What is transitional housing? It sounds like it's somewhere in the middle of those, but
yeah, absolutely in the middle. So let's say you became homeless, Tommy, right? And you have to now take your family down to Department of Social Services. They're going to tell you to wait for the eviction notice. You're going to have to come back tomorrow. You're going to tell them you're going to lose your job if you come back tomorrow, but they have their state requirements they have to do. And your kids are like kind of scared there and all that, right? And then you go into a shelter and there's a lot of rules and things that you have to do. And there's a reason for them and whatnot. Or you call Bethany House and you say, oh my God, my family's about to become homeless. I am working. I could pay something. I just need to get myself back together. And we say, oh, okay, let's interview you. You move into our house in Belmore and your kids are there and they're in a home, and kind of different experience, right?
So it's not, it's totally different. And again, it sounds to me, and for lack of a better word, how I'm experiencing it's a safety net. You caught me, right? Before I end up going down this other path that without that support, now we are homeless, right? So
I had a woman tell me once, Tommy, that she was homeless for a while, single woman. She said, you keep us homeless too long. That becomes our identity.
Of
And
course it
now
does.
we're trying to survive as a homeless person. In
Yeah.
the beginning, I was trying to get back into an apartment. Now I'm trying to survive as a homeless person, and it's become my identity.
That
And
sucks.
that was very powerful.
It is powerful. And it's, that's why the words have meanings, right? People experiencing homelessness versus people who are homeless people, right? Like I don't think that's just semantics, because what we say goes into our brain, goes into our subconscious. And then to her point, this woman, it's saying that she identified as that, right? Now right. So now it's a different.
And now she's trying to like get to DSS and keep her case open and make sure she eats and she's forgotten about like an apartment and a job because
right. See, but
she's surviving every day.
See, this is the stuff, Katie, that starts to piss me off. And I never curse on my show. I don't know if that's a bad curse, but I never say that. But this is the stuff that pisses me off, because to be honest with you, now it's quicksand. Remember those old movies I've never actually seen quicksand. I don't know if it's real, but I remember those always in the cartoons. And if you're watching the video, you'll see I'm in the quicksand, everybody. And the guy in the quicksand would be like this, and he'd just like be disappearing. I feel like it's not like, how do you get, or trying to run up a hill that's made out of ice and you just sliding down the hill, man. Like, I remember.
I think of myself all the time as like a lifeguard watching people drown, and I'm like, the float is here. Come on, grab it, please.
Right on. Yeah, there's some psychological stuff to that too, right? People need to reach out and grab the float too, and there's all different parts, but we got to make it attainable so they can actually swim over to it and reach it. So right.
And our systems have become so complex. You were talking about having caseworkers. You need caseworkers to guide you through the systems to get these wonderful programs that will help you, but it's not that easy, So
and we got to go to break. So some of that, though, I guess, is an access situation. And I talk a lot about, accessibility when I'm referring to other things, like when we talk about people with different abilities or neurodiverse, whatever, everything to me, it's about access. And it sounds like, Katie, in a lot of cases, the programs, maybe not all of them, maybe they're not perfect. I know we probably have some gripes with some things the way they are. Maybe it's too much of a pain in the neck to get through some hoops and whatnot. But it sounds like in a lot of cases, the programming is there, but it's how do we get these people to the program? And that's a lot of what the caseworkers do. Is that right?
Yes. And it wouldn't be it would be a whole nother show, but to make the programs a little easier to attain. I mean, I've met young people who can't read.
Mm-hmm.
And they graduated high school, which
well, again, that's a whole.
And you're giving them. I don't know if you've ever seen the social services application. You should go by one day and grab it. You would have a lot of trouble filling it out.
Thank you for
myself included.
I'm kidding.
But and then you put someone in crisis with limited intellectual functioning.
I got two kids pulling on me, and they're hungry, and I got to fill out this form 100%. And here's that I'm sure you do. That comment when they say, "Don't threaten me with a good time." Here's the deal, Katie. I'm gonna tell you this. You said that's a whole other show. Good. We'll make a whole nother show. You come on and we'll talk about how to fix things even more. Right? Like that's what this is. This is a blank canvas. This is a platform. We're gonna change the world. No big deal. Shout out to
we have to change our systems, because our systems are. Someone said to me, sanctions, systematic roadblocks.
Right on. Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
My parents bought their house in 1979 in Seacliff, and Russian immigrants were renting out cots in the dining room. Now you can't like rent out a room unless you have a SRO or whatnot. Like there's so many laws, and that's a piece too of why people can't just double up the way they used to, or it's illegal. We got to have legal housing, and sometimes that's good, but sometimes it doesn't make sense.
Sometimes the rules are in place just because the fact that they're in place, and that's a whole other thing. We got to go to break, but sometimes the rules are just there, and if you look back, you go, well, why are the rules there anyway? Right? Like they put them there, and then they don't. Anyway, we're gonna have to do a follow-up show, but we're right now. We got to take a break. I'm 3 minutes over.
I'm gonna fill up my water.
Fill up your water. We'll all be right back. I'm thirsty. Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host a program, Philanthropy and Phocus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
Were you an essential worker during the pandemic? If you needed to learn stages of epilepsy, did you depend on advocates? Did you use new innovations to cope with mental and neurological issues? Maintaining high quality of life and keeping good mental health are what we all strive for. I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each week top healthcare influencers, professionals, and innovators answer these questions and more. Stay tuned on Thursdays at 5 p.m. on talkradio.nyc, and I will continue to be frank about health with all of you.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
And we are back. So my friend and guest is Katie Swanson, Executive Director of Bethany House. And we've been talking about homelessness. We've been talking about, I just mentioned access, and we're going to discuss on a whole nother show that we're going to do. I'm going to call it Katie Swanson's Back in the Attic with Tommy D. That'll be the name of that show. And that'll be just a little more about solving the issues. But here's the thing, Katie. I mean, that's what this is. It's all about collaboration. You mentioned you had relationships with Bethany House, and I imagine many other shelters in your role in working for the county. So can you talk a little bit about what you saw in Bethany House, and then talk to me a little bit about the programs too? But like, what did you see in Bethany House that when this opportunity came up for you to come on to leave, I guess, how do you say it? Is it public service when you work for the county like that to work for the nonprofit, I guess?
And to hone in on like a few cases instead of the thousands.
Yeah.
And a certain sector. We serve women and children.
Right.
So Bethany House, they've always provided beautiful homes, like home-like settings. And I remember early 2000s going to one of the Bethany houses and watching them like carrying filet mignons to cook for the guests. And I was like, this is so cool, where I don't know. And then there's playrooms in the houses, right? There's backyards with play structures, and it's just very warm and like I said, all of the community of volunteers. There's, we did a guest survey recently that we call our people who live with us guests, right? So we did a guest survey, and one of the women was like, I'm making memories with my kids, finally, some positive memories, because we have a family now. The mom, she's a wonderful woman. She's got so much potential. We just have to get at her the right way. She's been homeless her entire life. As a kid, she grew up homeless. She has kids, they're homeless, and she never was given a fair shot, so that's what drew me to Bethany House. They're just a really wonderful organization. They've been around a long time, and they have a lot of good programs. And we're, coming up on our 50th anniversary. We were born in 1978.
Hold on. Pause, time out, flag on the play, because I was just about to mention something as well. We went to break. I was showing the timeline of this organization. So I must argue what you're saying. Not only was this organization established in 1978, I was established in 1978. So let's not start saying you're approaching any sort of nonsense about 50. I was born in January 78. That would make me 46 years old. So
right.
Not really. So we're not approaching necessarily.
I hear you, because I was born in 79. So
Okay.
like the next year I will be, but we're getting there, and it's exciting. Some momentum.
Fair enough. And I'm happy to celebrate with you. Can we just not rush it? Can we just celebrate this year?
I feel you. Anne actually reminded me of that. And I'm like, yeah, I know, because the next year I turn 50.
Yeah.
But we're in a good place. It could be an exciting thing to look at, right? And I think we need more transitional housing, and we need private dollars for that. Fortunately, unfortunately, I mean, the fortunate part is there's less government regulations. Not that those are always bad,
Yeah.
But you can be a little more creative with what you do when it's private money, as opposed to public money.
So let me
So
ask
we
you a
always
question.
need funding
Yeah,
for that program.
always need funding. And we're going to talk about that like towards the end of the show.
Definitely for transitional housing. I mean, I see the key components, right? Are if you could help people. My mom was a fundraiser for years, and I had her were helping me with something I was writing, and she said, "You think trauma causes homelessness?" And I said, "No, it's a complex issue. It's drug abuse, it's incarceration, it's not getting what you need as a kid." She goes, "Okay, so you just said to me you think trauma causes homelessness." She's like, "That's what you just said." I'm like, "Oh, right, you're right. I did. Okay, I
Yeah.
do. If I have to put it in one word, trauma causes homelessness. If I had to say one sentence, that's not 100%, but
Yeah, but I think that word you're using, trauma, is a catch-all for all those other things, right? Like, isn't
right,
like, trauma doesn't mean I was incarcerated, but incarcerated means I have trauma, right? Like it's that. I don't know if that's logic. I don't know what
yes,
that was
yes,
before, but
yes.
it's like
And I
that.
think, right. And a lot of the women that we serve have been through unimaginable things. And also, there's such thing as complex trauma. I don't know if you know about that, but like, so you're a child and someone abuses you, right? And you go to your mom and she reacts. She says, "Oh my goodness, I'm going to keep you safe." She goes to the police. She takes you to therapy. She does whatever, right? So you had trauma. But you go to your mom and she says, "That was your fault that you did that." And she beats you and locks you in the room. That's complex trauma. Now you went to somebody and they didn't protect you. And that's what a lot of our clients have been through. I was working with I met this wonderful woman at one of our shelters, and she was abused at home, given to an aunt who abused her, put in foster care where she was abused. And, how is she supposed to be thinking about like college or planning or, saving money or having good relationships and developing a good, ego and all of that stuff? How do you do that when you're going through all those things? But it's never too late to treat trauma. And mental health, OMH is making some really great changes right now, which I'm sure you've heard. I'm really excited. They're meeting people more. I'm not the expert on that. I do have a clinical license. I understand mental health, but I don't know exactly what the changes are. I don't want to say the wrong thing, but it seems like overall they're meeting people more where they're at.
Yeah.
Like you can do virtual, if you're using drugs and mentally ill, you can go to therapy, even though you don't want to start with drug treatment yet, like meeting people a little bit more where they're at, which is what private therapists do, right? When you can afford private therapy, they meet you where you're at. But when you have to go to a system, there's all these rules. So they seem to be changing for the better, which is really exciting.
I want to make a quick shout out because I am connected to an organization called the Health and Business Alliance, and have been for many, many years. It's how I know Anita Mancini. It's how
I don't know. Okay.
Yeah, you'll have to. Well, I want you to be in the room with me when what I'm about to say is on June 7th. It's a Friday morning. Everybody out here on Long Island, I'll be interviewing 4 executive directors from nonprofit organizations, and part of the conversation is going to be around the topic of mental health. So I'll announce that when we come back from break and just tell you exactly who it is, because I want to stay on point with our conversation here. But it's June 7th at the Viscardi Center, the Henry Viscardi Center in Albertson, Mineola area. And I'll be interviewing these 4 leaders. But so, Katie, like I said, when we talked yesterday, the day prior, I mean, we're always going to run out of time on the show. It's kind of like the cuteness of the show. Like we always run out of time. It's like it's so cute that we do that. But I want to come back when we do take a break shortly. I want to come back and talk about what is kind of in this new role. It is a new role for you. I haven't even been there a year yet. What is, your vision? Who do we hook up with? Who do we connect with? Who do we collab with? What's upcoming? We'll shout out those events again. And that'll kind of bring us to a close for the show today. And then, you know what? I'm sorry to tell you, you're probably gonna have to come back and probably gonna have different conversations, into the future. And I was telling your colleague yesterday, Ann, shout out to Ann. I was saying, also shout out to Lisa for making this happen and bringing us all together. I had said, and
talk
shout
about
out
a
to
wonderful volunteer.
Lisa King, right?
Yeah.
Shout out to Lisa King, and shout out to you and me connecting at the Imagine Awards, because I was like, I know who you all are. I know where you're sitting. You're sitting with my friend Christine, and you're like, who is this guy? Why is he talking to me in my face like this? And then now look at where we are now. Look at us. Now we'll be friends. But I was telling Ann yesterday, I said, Ann, I'm sort of like tough to get rid of. Like once I become connected, I want to be there. I want to support. I want to be involved. And one thing I want to do before we go to break is I say this. One day, Katie, you tell me when I will bring Italian ices for the kids in the Bethany houses because my dad owns Ralph's Italian Ices out in Huntington, and
Oh, that'd be awesome.
I like to donate ices. So if it's appropriate, again, I don't know what's
No,
allowed.
let's do it. We could have
Done.
like a little backyard
You
party or
tell me
something.
whenever. It's
Kids would love it. Thank
I
you.
would love it. All right, we'll
And
do
those
that.
are the things like having like a little Italian ice party. Those kids are gonna remember that, right?
100%.
Like
100%. Why every kid deserves to have an Italian ice, man. And if I can make it my business to hand out Italian ices,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do this whole thing.
And kids just want simple things, right? Like just to play, someone to play with them, pay attention to them, feel safe.
100%. And again, that's childhood. We just did something with Big Brothers Big Sisters with one of my other companies, the Philanthropy Network in New York. We just did an event with Big Brothers Big Sisters. I brought Italian ices, and it's just everybody wants an Italian ice, man.
Just
we gotta
fun.
we gotta go to a break. We'll be right back. Let's go, Logan. Take us to a break.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mira Broncu, host of The Hard Skills on talkradio.nyc at 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host the program Philanthropy and Phocus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays, 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
And we're back. So just really quick, I want to point this out. The Health and Business Alliance, I noticed a typo on here because that's how fast you move when you're a nonprofit sector connector. But June 7th, 2024, which is in a couple weeks at Viscardi, which is 201 IU Willits Road in Albertson, your boy will be hosting this panel discussion. Yolanda Rubano Gross, the CEO of Options for Community Living, who is a very good friend of mine, and I love the work she and her team are doing. Jeff McQueen, who's also a good friend of mine, executive director of the Mental Health Association in Nassau County. Maybe Katie, you've collabed with Jeff in the years past. Gene Butler, who runs an organization called Encourage Kids, who has been on this said program, Philanthropy and Focus. And the second ever episode of hundreds of episodes of Philanthropy and Focus, Dr. Larry Grubler, my friend, will be there. Transitional Services of New York. TSI serves 5,000 individuals each year in the 5 boroughs of New York City with mental health challenges, mental illness. So that's a thing. So Katie, I want you to be there, and I want everybody else, if you're close to Long Island, to be there. It's coming up in a couple weeks. So Katie,
Sounds
back.
great.
Isn't that
Yes.
awesome?
So some programs that I'm working on, and it kind of goes to what could solve homelessness, right? There's different groups, and there's some people that need like real supports who are living outside and really not functioning well. But I'm dealing with people who are able to deal with the systems. And so I know that if we could heal their trauma, which is a big thing, but heal their trauma and teach them financial literacy, they'll be fine. They'll be okay. They can move on. They'll be okay, and build a community around them as well. So, I was noticing that a lot of the clients have been through trauma, right? Most of them, and they don't go to therapy. you sign them up for therapy, they go once, they stop, they don't really understand it. Maybe there's a stigma, I'm not crazy, all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So I met this gentleman, David Heimowitz, many years ago. He worked for the Nassau County, amazing trainer, does Narcan training, but really good mental health training too. And I used to do trainings with him with all the shelters in Nassau County. So he since has left the county and he's part of this organization called Same Here. So I have him come in to do training with my clients, my staff, and he's just there for them, talking to them about how it can be triggering work. It can be hard. You're walking into a shelter with your own baggage and it might, you're just supporting them. He's, like I said, he's wonderful. So then I thought, what if we give this to the guests, to the homeless clients? What if we teach them about mental health? And then maybe they'll, I say trick them in a good way into going to therapy. So we did it. We did it at one of our shelters and it was amazing. I can't even we need funding to keep doing this. But so I said to all the women, I need you to be here. So they all came the first night and they sat there and they said, we're here because you made us and we promised. Fine. By these are the
guests. These are the guests that are speaking.
These are the guests. These are the homeless women. So we have volunteers babysitting their kids in the playroom. I have them in the kitchen. We're doing this mental health training with him. So he taught them about the vagal nerve that goes from your head to your stomach and how when it gets activated repeatedly, it stays activated and why they, get so upset when things happen and just taught them. He said, and so the first session they were there because they promised me. The second they were like, okay, what are you talking about next week, David? Because we want to be prepared and ready. So they talked to him about it. He listened to them. They loved him.
What's his name? I love this. What's his name? I want to shout him out.
David Heimowitz. David Heimowitz. He's a clinical social worker as well. It just connects with anybody. So, and he's just real with them, genuine. He said to them, they said, do you like us? And he said, oh, I really like you. I enjoy this process. He said, I was afraid you weren't going to like me. And they said, why wouldn't we like you? He said, because I'm a short old man.
You're going to make me cry. This is what it is.
It was beautiful. The notes they wrote him were amazing. And, about how they don't feel scared anymore or unstuck. So he said to them, next week, I'm going to talk about self-medicating. So one of the feistiest girls said, well, I self-medicate 3 times a day and I'm not stopping by next Wednesday. And he said, okay, thanks for sharing. I just want to teach you why people in America self-medicate. That's all. I'm not talking about you. I'm not it's just, why do people do this? Because people are people and we're all doing things for the same reasons,
Yeah, well, because
it was the most beautiful thing. I can't even so we're going to do it at our other shelters. And if I, the more funding I can get, I could just do it.
What does that mean? We got to think in terms of fundraising real quick. What exactly does that mean? Because we're at that point.
So people, giving donations.
What though?
How much does it cost? Out letters to a lot of
This program.
Okay, this program.
What's it going to cost?
It's around $2,000 for a session, 5 sessions.
And how many women can?
Where he does it with a group, as many as want. I did it in each house because I feel like it's a journey he's going through with them. Yeah. And it was amazing. A couple of weeks ago, I went in and one of the girls said, I was so mad. I was on the phone and my boyfriend was upsetting me. And one of the other girls said, did you do the breathing that David taught you? And she said, yeah, I did. I did the deep breathing and then the fast breathing. And the other one said, and did you do this? Did you hug yourself like he said? She goes, I didn't need to because the breathing worked. So I didn't need to. And I was like,
game changer. Katie Swanson, awesome. What is the ripple effect? Gang, listen up. We're talking about a $2,000 investment in a ripple that will help generations, because now these women are changed and their children will be changed. And I hear around the house, some of my children need to be reminded, use your tools. Your tools, do the breathing, go for a walk, do the
and
thing.
To see them support each other.
That's community.
So cool. It was so cool. So he's going to keep doing it, and he's training my staff too. And it's just because that's what's needed, and to understand how to, sometimes I have staff, this client did this, what's the consequence? No, we need to build a relationship. So there's just natural consequences where they're like, sorry, I did that and I should have done it differently. There's ways to motivate people to do things, and there's ways to listen and speak to them. And, one of the clients said when he's self-medicating, she goes, because a lot of them are smoking marijuana, and she said, who was I before I started self-medicating? She goes, I want to know who that was.
Yeah.
And how cool is that? And they're like, when is he coming back? you
I had this
know.
conversation. I just had this
And some of them started therapy. And that was my
as a
hope.
result
They would
of
start therapy. Yeah.
as a result
We
of being
did,
exposed to
and we
this.
started a partnership. It's not formal yet, but a partnership with Central Nassau Guidance and with Epic and South Nassau, so that we have easy ways to get them in. Because I'm like, I need to give it to them on a silver platter. They can't call you and leave a message and get called back. I need my caseworkers to do that. So all they have to do is just arrive and be willing to be open and share. You know, that's it. Because
Yeah,
some
well-
things, you know, you're not supposed to work harder than the client, right, Tommy? I shouldn't do things for you, but some things I need to do for you. Some things I need to make easy for you. Because you're going to do the hard work when you're there. That's the hard stuff, you know?
Yeah, and listen, the last thing we need is more roadblocks, you know, like so I'm all right. You know what, Katie, you've convinced me. I want to do the work. But hold on, it's going to take 6 weeks to get you on a call with somebody. What? You got me to the point where I'm ready to do it, man. Don't discourage, like for what it, all that. And I personally, listen, man, I know it when I reach out to seek mental health professionals for people in my world. It's like, wait, what do you mean? You know what it took to get to the point to say yes to that? And now it's like, I can't, well, we could get you on a calendar in August.
Right.
It's May, man.
Yeah.
Like, what are we talking about? So I think,
in South Nassau Clinic,
yeah,
they're seeing our clients, they're involved in, and they came and did some anger management workshops for free just because they liked what we were doing. And so that stuff's cool. Like, we have to be a whole community, and I got to surround these ladies with positivity. And we just put in you know, the reverse osmosis water filtration systems in all of our shelters, because like, you have to have clean drinking water, right? Like, you're not drinking Brita or Poland Spring. I want you to have the best drinking water. I want you to have good food, a comfortable bed, mental health services. I don't care if you have a fancy car and new sneakers. You don't need that, but you need like the fundamental things, the support that I have, that you have. They
100%.
Deserve it too, you know?
100%. And I mean, like, that's like, you say fundamentals, the basics. Yeah. I mean, it's
like, how do you study when you're hungry?
Listen, a couple weeks ago, I had on an organization here on the show. We got to go in a sec, but the organization is called Longwood Blessings in a Backpack. Every single Friday, 500 children go home with food for the weekend from this organization.
That's awesome.
Right? And they asked me to MC an event. They had a casino night event out in Port Jeff, I don't know, 2 weeks ago on a Friday. So I went out there, the golden black jacket, the whole thing, right? So I got the crowd, they're eating out of my hands, right? And I'm ready. And I say, you know what? I had this group on my show a couple weeks back. I'm so excited to have them there. I was incredibly touched by the fact that 500 children go home with the meals that they need for the weekend. However, there are 200 children on the waiting list. Here on Long Island, Katie Swanson.
I know.
Here on Long Island. So my point is, we're out there. We're on the front lines. We're doing the work. You know, you all more than me, but I'm doing what I can do from my platform. But it's about making change. It's about bringing people what they need.
It's about community. I have a kid in one of the shelters at a very fancy elementary school, and every kid gets a swag bag for their birthday. They give out to everybody. I called our volunteers. One of the volunteers did swag bags, so she had a swag bag just like every other kid. I love it. Like, that matters. Like,
it matters. It's
forever not having that.
Birthday blessings, birthday wishes. Shout them out quick because we're over time. But birthday wishes
is amazing organization.
I got to get them on the show. Do me a favor, who your contact is, let's work that out on the text message stuff and get that going. Gang, Katie Swanson, I appreciate.
Check out our website. Is it on your thing? BHNY.
Call it out.
BHNY.org. We have Instagram and Facebook. You could link from there, and you'll see our events. And
we got to go. My buddy Steve's show is about to start. We got it.
All right, bye.
Everyone you know is fighting in a battle you know nothing about. Be kind always. I love you. Katie, thanks for being here. Make it a great day.
People are people.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in